Welcome back to Data Center News Asia. Dan, you've got some sort of gradiated background going on there. It looks different to last year. You had, I recall there being some sort of shrubbery in the background.
Yeah, what I've done is I've taken you from my kitchen and moved you across to my lounge. I'm also working from home today. So, funny enough, Rhys, I wrote a piece on LinkedIn just a couple of days ago to say that actually modern day publishers must create content wherever buyers are browsing. Your podcast is a fantastic example of that, right? You can record it from wherever you are, getting the audio and the news stories wherever the browsers are, whether that's on LinkedIn or Spotify. Well, it's a great example of publishing in 2025. So thank you for having me back on.
Yeah, thank you for joining us, Dan. Well, James is always going on that we should be upping the quality of our editorial. He's big on the dual camera setup. He's looking at some of the different studios. But I argue that what our viewers come to us for is authenticity. And by that, I mean seriously low-grade production value. If it's so professional, they'd be going somewhere else. But yes, we will both be in attendance in Bali in a couple of weeks. So I'm sure most of you had figured it out based on Dan's job title flashing up on the screen, but that's why Dan is on the show this week. We will be in attendance at DCD Connect Asia, the second year. Last year, I certainly thought, Dan, it was a terrific success. I know how, not as an events professional myself, but like James used to work in events and we attend a lot of them and know how tough it can be, particularly in the first year. How did you find it?
Yeah, look, the team did a great job with it. I think what we're always trying to look at is twofold. How we make sure we're creating a great experience for the operators and the hyperscalers. And look, there's a huge amount of events across the region now. There's a huge sort of hockey stick-like demand spike across Asia Pacific for data centers. And congratulations, by the way, Rhys, I should have started. Congratulations on the new business launch. I'm sure that'll be a huge success. The market's in a good place, and I'm sure you'll be able to help everyone with their recruitment and scale-up needs. So thanks. Fair play to you for taking a step out and starting your own thing. The market's definitely in need of workforce. Is one of the huge challenges. So congratulations on taking the step out. And I think year one, what we were trying to do is, obviously in quite a congested events market across Asia Pacific, is really look at how we add as much value to the attendees as possible. So there's lots of different types of events, each with their own merits. You can do a huge sort of trade show style thing with lots of exhibitors and a big exhibition hall. You can do sort of much smaller round table things. What we really wanted to do with this one is create almost a destination style setup and make sure we were, there's growth in all regions. We did a survey to our readership recently in terms of which country in the region was going to experience the fastest growth, whether that's Thailand, Malaysia, so on and so forth. It was quite a split vote. There's a huge amount of growth everywhere. So we also wanted a setting that would allow us to fly in experts from across the region. So we chose Bali, makes it a bit different, stands out in the calendar, and really creates a different type of networking. So, even last year we did plenty of receptions, plenty of yoga style sessions, 5K style sessions. I think in 2025 especially, where a lot of the operators, a lot of the vendors are sort of hybrid working, maybe doing a couple of days in office, a couple of days from home. As an organizer, you're looking for ways to, I suppose, create deliberate serendipity. Okay, and so often you hear...
That's a phrase to go on a T-shirt there, Dan.
Yeah, there you are. So often you sort of hear, I was in the networking break and I had a great coffee. I bumped into X, or the most valuable bit of the conference was bumping into Mr. Y over a cookie. And so it's how do you create those moments a little bit more deliberately? And so that's what we're trying to do with DCD Connect Asia Pacific, following a blueprint from DCD Connect Latin America, which we host in Cancun. That's similar sort of models for the attendees, replicating those water cooler conversations. How do we create environments that they can network in and socialize in and learn in? So, I think it was the first time ever post-pandemic, sorry to go off on a slight tangent, where boomers were no longer the group that most attended events. So you're catering for a different event audience now, and a beer on the show floor or wine on the show floor, it's not good enough. If that's the only networking you're offering, it's simply not good enough to create the connections that people are wanting from these events. And so, as you alluded to, Bali gives us the opportunity to be very, very networking heavy, to create something fundamentally that bit more experiential, and also to make sure we have the cross-section of audience. So year one, very kind of you to say, I think the people who attended really enjoyed it. I think the sponsors got great return on investment. And so it's just about how you scale up the event for year 2 in terms of attendees, in terms of partners, without losing that sense of community and impact that was really there in year 1, as you say. So I think Audrey's done a fantastic job on the programme this year. Shout out to her. She's our conference producer. She's programmed everything. I think we're up to about 180 expert speakers across the 3-day event now, which is really something, from your hyperscalers, AWS, Oracle, Microsoft, down to your operators, which includes your sort of global players like NTT, Global Switch, Digital Realty, Equinix, all the way through to your sort of regional powerhouses, your telehouses and your DCIs. So the program's really built out. And on the partner side, we've been really lucky. I think the success with the first ones helped us sort of launch into year 2, and we've got about 70 partners now. So it's going to be well supported and super busy. We're on about 1,500 attendees as I speak to you, which is fantastic. One quick note, actually, if I can use your platform for a bit of a public service announcement. The hotel is sold out, okay? There's plenty of other hotels along the beach. You'll know from being there last year, Rhys, that there's sort of stone's throw, plenty of hotels. You can come into the conference and be part of the event without staying at the hotel. So if you haven't booked yet, grab your ticket. There's still free passes for operators available. Book a hotel next door. It's not going to have any impact on your experience at all. It's causing some confusion. I think there's only sort of 400 or 500 rooms where we are at the Grand Hyatt. So don't panic if you haven't booked yet.
I think most of our audience, if they're in Southeast Asia or Australia, we're pretty familiar with Bali, but you're in Nusa Dua, so you're kind of in amongst all of the big resort-style hotels. So I think within a negligible walk, you've got like the W, you've got the Westin, you've got a whole string of them. There's also villas and stuff on Airbnb. Plenty of accommodation in the area. I think actually on the golf, unfortunately last year when we did the unofficial golf, we got a little bit of trouble for because we hijacked half your speakers to come and play around before the welcome drinks. This year there's a big official golf tournament which Chris has been organising. Looks really exciting. I did really enjoy last year your blend of kind of formal and informal, and it was a really nice blend. Didn't feel too stuffy, but also didn't feel like a jolly. It felt like a very focused kind of couple of days last year. Are there any big changes this year that people should be aware of outside of accommodation options?
I think you've touched on something really important. First of all, just on those satellite events, I think they're always a good thing. We embrace them. I think if it means it's adding to the experience, then it's got to be a good thing, right? So we formalised it somewhat with the sort of official golf day this year to kick things off. Thanks for being a part of that. I know Chris Thompson on our side, who leads our international team, has been driving that forward with you. So thank you for baking in another element to the programme. I think overall you touched on something really important. What we need to try and cater for is to allow us, an individual, to personalise their time with us. So if you want to spend the whole time in conference sessions around data centre investment or data centre cooling or data centre power or data centres in the age of AI or whatever your passion point is, you can do so. There's 3 days worth of content that you can mark in your programme and go into all of those sessions and have, in essence, quite a traditional conference experience, if that's your thing. Or you can dip in and out and say, right, actually, I want to take a broad view of what's going on the M&A side. I'll sit in a couple of the investment sessions. Then I'd like to catch up on the AI track and go and sit in those AI workshops. So what we're hoping and what we'd encourage the attendees to do is to really check out the programme in advance, because what you have, Rhys, is you have 5 or 6 concurrent options, which can be a bit overwhelming in a way if you haven't looked before. But what we're trying to do is allow attendees to really tailor the event to their own needs. And if you're a massive networker and you prefer doing all your meetings in a sort of one-to-one place, maybe by the poolside bar or by the beach, you can do that as well. So really go in and create your experience. The networking platform, download DCD Connect app, allows you to sort of book out certain sessions and create your own agenda. So as an organizer, what we're really trying to do is to make sure that at any time across that 3-day period, there's something for everyone. And that starts with the morning yoga at 6 if that's your thing, 5K run if that's not your thing, come and join us a little bit later, enjoy your breakfast by the beach, and then come into the sessions. The idea really is to create something really personalised to the individuals. Now, doing that at a scale where you've got 1,500 attendees, it's a challenge. You need a lot of speakers, you need a lot of support, you need a lot of different stages. So, look, logistically, the team's done a great job putting that together. But there really should be, to your point, something for everybody.
So, Dan, I'm a bit of a Philistine. I absolutely hate having to download an app for every restaurant, conference, and whatever. But it does sound like quite a useful thing in this context. If I've got the app downloaded, I can message all the other attendees if I want to arrange meetings. I guess that's pretty standard function. But then, what about do you have to book into any of these extra events and things? Do you have to register attendance before you go? Is it worthwhile doing that?
Great question. For the most part, they're self-selecting. So I wouldn't necessarily posit that as the key thing. There are plenty of private sessions which tend to be sponsor run, which are programmed based upon the interest areas of our delegates. You have to fill in the survey at point of registration. So if you log into the app, you'll also see anything that we've programmed you into. If you've told us at point of registration you'd really like to be interested in cooling, we'll have pre-programmed you into a cooling lunch, for example. So we've tried to personalise it ourselves. We've got a concierge team led by Shelby who do fantastic work to really help attendees get to that point. Like you, apps are sort of a fairly pejorative term, aren't they? We're sort of fully aware of it as organisers. Anything we've pre-programmed will also be in your calendar. And we'd have sent to you by email as well. But the app, as you say, appreciate not everyone loves them, but if you're really going to go and set those meetings up, there's 1,500 attendees this year. Okay, so you really want to try and be as efficient as possible. It's going to be hard to spot people out in the crowd when you've got events at that scale. So I would recommend it, not so much for the sessions because it's open access. You can make a last minute decision if you can't quite choose between two. But for what you said, you made the point. It's like to set up those meetings, to make introductions, or if you are on the sort of vendor side and you're trying to figure out who's attending, the attendee list is also on the app. You have to be really careful as an organizer, as a publisher these days. You can't just be passing around the attendee list. GDPR, you've got to be compliant. We've got to do it in a sensible way. The app is by far the best place to download it, check out the attendee list, message those who you're interested in connecting with, and you're going to have a much more efficient day.
All right, sold. I'll get the app. So sounds like a fantastic event day this year. Really looking forward to it. 1,500 attendees. How much is that compared to last year? Because last year felt quite big, but it didn't feel too crowded. It was quite spread out across a big venue.
Yeah, we've got a venue we can scale in, which is nice. That's another sort of logistical headache you have on occasion. I think we had about 1,100 last year. I think so. We're about 40% up year on year. One thing we always try and do, I don't want to fall into the sort of the trope of talking about scale too much. What's really important to DCD Connect events across the global series is that mix of operators and, to use an industry term, players, if you like, the individuals buying the technology and the vendors obviously offering up their solutions. We're trying to scale, but we're trying to scale whilst keeping that percentage 70-30. Okay, so when you arrive at the Grand Hyatt and you're having your first drink by the beach, 70% of that audience are going to be the operators. Okay, so it's one thing to scale. It's actually super easy to put on an event and to get 10,000 people there. You make tickets free and you can scale it quite quickly, right? What we're really looking at, and it comes back to that earlier phrase on deliberate serendipity, you only get that if your chances of bumping into an operator are high. If you're going to an event and you're bumping into other vendors all day or other executive search firms all day, it's going to be less productive for you. So, we really, the scale, it's great to have that growth year on year, but we separate ourselves mostly through our quality. We're dedicated only to this industry. Data centers is bread and butter for us. So there's ways to scale, I think. So we really fiercely protect that audience mix. And I think that's really important, not just at a destination style event is even more important, but across our global series, that's really key for us.
Well, I'm certainly looking forward to it. If you haven't already booked your tickets, the link is in the comment section. You have a free pass if you are an end user or a customer, and there's a discount code from DCNEWSASIA if you are attending as a vendor. So do log in, do register if you haven't gone. Last year was a fantastic event. Really looking forward to this one. We're going to be bringing out some coverage of the golf as well and work out the logistics of that with Chris. And of course, James and I will be doing some interviews with some of the guest speakers. There will be content on DCNEWSASIA, but that's not really any fun compared to going to Bali. Dan, thank you very much for joining us.
Brilliant. We really appreciate the support. You guys have been great over the past couple of years as we're scaling this up. And I meant what I said at the start. I think, these platforms and podcasts, particularly in an industry with such strong tailwinds at the moment, are really helpful to the community. So keep up the good work and look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks' time.
Nice one. Cheers, Dan.